All right, so here we are with this cricket, this mascot cricket that we created for Morrisville, the town of Morrisville, North Carolina. They have a cricket team, and zooming in, showing you some of the details here. Obviously, working with their color palette was really important. So we developed their logo a long time ago. Actually, I don't know, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, and so we have a color palette that we want to work with. But anyway, they came back and said, they made a number of changes. They wanted to change the eyes, but they wanted to see if we could add some pants to this cricket. And it never dawned on me that a cartoon could be quote unquote naked, but nonetheless, it's very easy to do in Illustrator, working with layers. You pretty much draw like this. You draw on the background layers of the drawing in Illustrator. And I want to pick up some colors, some coloration, some vignettes, like in the shoe here. Okay, and I want to make a straight vignette across, not a circular one. To kind of have like an off-white looking pant, if you will. So we're going to draw both sides. Again, it's very easy because we're working with layers in the background of this particular drawing. You can see I have some shading here. I want to pick up the vignette from the other leg here, but we have some shading from previous. Okay, so we work this here, and it depends on which direction the light's coming from, of course. And you take a look at the rest of the drawing and you can see that the light's sort of coming from the right side front, if you will. And I know you don't want to get crazy detailed. This is actually going to be a small cricket, I was told, but you never know. I always like to draw these in high resolution vector so that they're easy to edit and they're not pixelated and grainy. Just makes it a little bit easier. So we look for the shadows here. You can see the shadow from the sweater that we used before here. And so I want to turn this off. Yeah, turn these layers off, just so we don't see the shadow layer from the sweater like that. So anyway, so they're all on different layers like this. And usually you name them too, like this one here. Okay, we're going to change this to shadow over pants, just because it's easier to see. And I'll get into accessibility reasons later for making accessible documents. That's for another time. But working on the color here, I replicated this, and now I basically want to create more or less a dark gray or a black kind of vignette to create a little bit of shading underneath the sweater. The reason I do this too is to give it some depth. That's important, especially for these smaller vector graphics. We don't have the luxury of using a spray tool like an airbrush, like we do in Photoshop for pixel graphics, right? So we kind of play around with this, play with the vignette, move it around. I mean, there's so many different ways to do this, right? So you just kind of play around with this and, till you like it. Now, again, the beauty about having layers in Illustrator is that you can turn them on, turn them off, try 1, 2, 3, or 4 different things. You can try multiple ways to draw your drawing and just experiment. It's really, really easy to use the layers. So, and depending on who you are, I tend to finagle this a little bit too much sometimes, but and I wouldn't say I'm a perfectionist, but I want to make it right. I duplicate it here and there. There's basically a couple of shadows above the leg. And again, there's different ways of doing this. I have ways, that might take 2 or 3 times longer and look really sharp. But see, you get that gist, and it adds that little bit of depth that you need for a little cricket friend here. So that's pretty much how to draw the pants. It's really easy. I mean, it's basic shape with a basic black and white vignette and a couple of shades, or shadows rather. So then I'd go into I want to lock it so I don't mess it up. See, I turn it on and off just to check it out. But now I want to add a little bit of detail to it just so it doesn't look like smooth tights or something. Because the rest of the drawing, the sweater has stitch marks and things. So I think what we'll do is draw some kind of stitch marks along the side of the pants. And that's actually pretty easy to do too. So you go over here, you go to the line tool, and we want to turn off the color. We don't want to fill that. We want to go to this stroke tool here and probably come up with something that works on both sides. So kind of a gray color. And I'll make it a dashed line. And down here, you can change the dash and gap. I'll probably go with like a 3, and then I'll round the edges just to create some smooth stitching. And again, you really won't see these details too much, but I like to do them. I like to put the time in to make them done right. It's what we do as illustrators, right? And then I'll replicate something very similar on the other side, and then I'll group them together so that they're easier to work with, but they're still on that layer, remember? And we can work with their opacity like this, see? So you can see through some of the background. And that's pretty much it. I mean, add some stitching. I wouldn't get nuts. I could actually go in and add canvas texture, and there's a whole slew of things, but you can see the difference in the shadows. But that's all there really is to it, to changing a quote unquote naked cricket to giving it some pants. Part of the outfit, part of the whole uniform, I suppose. So now it has pants, it has a sweater, it has pads, it has the gloves, it has the cricket paddle, the ball, and that's now one happy cricket. And that's how you add pants to a naked cricket.